The title of our notes is interest. I'll give you about 30 seconds to get some paper out and put that title there, please.
Mister, are you sharing the screen?
Thought it was.
Yeah, Mr.
I might need some more. I might need some more coffee. Here we go. Now we're talking. So the title is interest. Thank you. Thank you for that. Good looking out there. Go ahead. Question. So 30 seconds.
I was just saying what's going on.
What's going on? So, interest. Perhaps you've noticed when you go to Wells Fargo, I'm not sure where you or your parents do your banking. Whenever I go to Wells Fargo or Bank of America, Chase, Banco Popular, I've noticed when I walk out, I'm just walking out with my own money. They're not selling me anything. They're not. So there's no food. What are they? How are these banks making money? I just give them my money to hold, and it's safekeeping. No one's gonna jack it. Hopefully, no one steals my password on my ATM card. But I notice that whenever I leave, I mean, they're not selling me anything. So how are these big banks making money? Well, they're making money with this interest. It's the charge. It's the amount they charge people for lending money. I bought this house, like I told you yesterday, for $490,000. I did not have $490,000 in my bank account. So there was a bank that lent me the money, paid the person who's selling the house, and now I owe the bank what they paid me, what they lend me, plus interest. Okay, plus the interest. So they gave me the $490,000 to give to the owner so I can buy this house in Rancho Cucamonga. Under the agreement that I would pay them the $490,000 back, plus % of interest. That's how they make money. Banks lend money to businesses. Banks lend money to people who want to buy cars. Banks lend money to people who want to send their kids to school. They'll take out a loan, and home loans. So loans are the name of the game. This is how banks make money. This is how countries get rich. When you have good banks that pay responsible people money, that lend responsible people money, and those responsible people are able to pay the banks back. And those responsible people who are paying the banks back use that money that the bank gave them to invest. So this house that I bought it for $490. It's now worth $590. So even though I'm paying the bank back $490,000, I made $100,000 buying this. So this is the way economics works. You lend me money so I can do something on my own and invest. I'll pay you the money back at interest, but in the meantime, I'm making money with the money you lend me. So I made $100,000 with the bank from the $490,000 the bank gave me. Think about that. This is how capitalism works. This is what made this country great. This is why people want to come here. This is why people are at the border wanting to get over here, because there's a lot of riches here. There's a lot of opportunities here. There's law and order here. So it's huge. So it's all about interest. We're going to start off real basic on how to calculate interest on really basic, silly examples. So everyone has a piece of paper, and we're going to get into example one. Example one is, by the way, here's a quote of the day: if you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. Like that one. Let's find the interest. Let's find the interest. Go to write down example one. $328 invested at 5% for 3 years. $328 invested at 5% for 3 years. Okay. So here, a bank is going to give someone 5% for allowing them to hold the money. So the banks want you to give them their money in savings accounts and checking accounts because they use that money to lend to other people. That's why they're willing to hold your money in a checking or savings account. Your money, along with the millions of other customers' money, they have this in a big old pot. They're able to lend that money out at interest, so they're getting money back for lending, and at the same time, they're paying you a little interest for putting your money in their bank. So they want you to open an account because they use your money to lend to other people. So imagine just this big old fat pot of money where millions of people who have all their checking accounts, it's just stored. They use that to lend to businesses, to lend to people to buy a house, to buy a car, or what have you. So the bank here is going to say, okay, if someone leaves $328 in an account, the bank's going to pay them 5% for 3 years. Here's the basic formula. How do you calculate interest? Here we go. Interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. I'm just putting PRT. The principal times the rate times the time. Okay? Now, the principal is your original amount of money. Okay? The rate is the percentage that will be given to that person for each year. The percentage of the principal. And the time is always in years. Okay? It's always in years. The time. Okay? Always in years. So, let's go ahead and plug and chug. Interest then is the principal, $328. How much will this customer at the bank make for leaving their money in this account? So the principal is $328. The rate is going to be it's the percent, but they call it the interest rate, but we're gonna express it as a pure decimal. 5%, remember, if I type that in a calculator, that it's going to spit out 0.05. So remember the shortcut, like on warm up, is just take the number and move the decimal over to the left twice. 1, 2. So it's 0.05. Veteran students will remember that from last quarter. So Lopez and maybe Flores, maybe remember that from a few quarters ago, whatever. So change the percent to a pure decimal. So that's your rate. So the rate is here, the principal is here, and now the time in years, this case is 3 years. Cool. Let's go ahead and multiply then. Interest then is equal to 328 times 0.05 times 3. I'm just going to type that in my calculator. I'll show you my screen, my calculator screen coming up. Here we are. There we are. My calculator is right here. So 328 times was it 08 or 05? 05, okay. Times 0.05. Oops. 0.05 times 3 years. So notice $49.20. So let me come back over here. So the interest made, notice, the interest is $49.20. So whoever this is who invested the cash, at the end of 3 years, they're going to have the 328 that they invested plus $49.20 added on top of that. Okay, investing means making your money work for you and multiplying for you. Okay, so that's the first example. So we're going to be just hanging out and using this formula for the whole day today and into Thursday. Interest equals PRT, principal times rate times time. Again, the rate was expressed as a pure decimal. In other words, I converted the percent to a pure decimal. The time was always in years, is always going to be in years. And the principal is the amount that's lent, borrowed, or invested. That's the principal. Let's try example 2. Unless there's any questions on example 1. Here we go. So here's example 2 now. I'll give you about 30 seconds to write this one down. $635.85. invested at 7% for 6 months. I'm going to copy that down. Okay, so here we go. Interest equals PRT. Okay, watch this now. Notice how this money is not invested for a full year. Okay, we know the rate's going to be 7%. That's going to go right there as a pure decimal. The principal is going to go there. But for 6 months, how would I express 6 months as a year? Well, since it's months, how many months in a year? Well, there's 12. So if 6 months would be 6/12 of a year. Think about it. Because remember, like I told you, the T has to be always in years. So 1 month would equal to 1/12 of a year, right? Because there's 12 pieces. There's 12 months in a year. 2 months would be 2/12 of a year. Think about it. Right? Right, exactly. 3 months would be 3/12 of a year. So what I'm trying to labor right now in terms of explanation is the time always has to be expressed in years. So 6 months would be 6/12 of a year. That's how many years. But 6/12 reduces to 1/2, right? In other words, remember from junior high, to reduce a fraction, 6 over 12, you can divide both by 6 and it becomes 1/2. So let's go ahead and plug and chug now. Put this stuff into my formula. So the interest then is going to be $635.85 times 0.07. Notice how I changed a percent to a pure decimal, right? There's 7%. For how many years? Well, a half a year. You could put 6/12, that's fine. Or you could put 1/2, it doesn't matter. For now, I'm gonna leave it at 6/12, just so you see that it works out. Okay, notice how the years, how many years? Well, 6/12 of a year, the money was left in. Or 1/2 of the year, either way it's gonna work. So watch what I'm gonna do now. Since I'm dealing with a fraction here, I'm gonna, look at the way I'm gonna express this. I'm gonna put everything as a fraction. 635.85 over 1 times 0.07 over 1 times 6/12. So you see what I'm doing? Since I'm dealing with fractions, I'm making everything into a fraction because I'm gonna end up multiplying fractions right now. And if we remember from junior high school, in order to multiply fractions, it's just numerator times numerator and then denominator times denominator. So watch. What I'm going to do in my calculator, I'm going to multiply 635.85 times 0.07 times 6. And that's going to give me my new numerator right here. Okay? And then I'll multiply 1 times 12. And that's going to give me a 12. I already know that. Okay? So let me go to my calculator and hit 635.85 times 0.07 times 6. Watch. Here we go. Here we go. Let me share my screen. So let me half this up here. Actually, that's cool. All right. 635.85. Let me clear this. 635.85 times 0.07. That's a 7% times 6. Notice that. I get 267.057. I'm going to keep all the decimals for now. 267.057. Watch this. 257.057. Let me put this right here. $257.067 was it? Well, 267 times 0.057, my bad. All right, 267. Here we go. Here we go, here we go. $267.057. Ah, piece of garbage. There we go, here we go. She's giving me a hard time here. $267. Notice right now I'm going to keep all the decimals till I'm done at the end. I'm going to round it to the nearest penny. But I'm going to keep it all the decimals right now to keep it very accurate. So notice numerator times numerator times numerator became this nasty numerator. Denominator times denominator became the 12. So now what I'm doing, my calculator is punch this stuff in here. 267.057 divided by 12. Watch what happens. Watch what happens here. Let's see. $267.057 divided by, watch this now, 12. Oops, by 12. Here we go. I get 22. Notice this now. Watch this. 22.25475. Now, we're dealing with cash. Remember, we're dealing with cash. So, welcome, Mr. Hernandez. Get some paper out. We're going over some examples on interest. Get a piece of paper out. We're right in the middle of notes. We'll talk shortly after I'm done. Get you caught up. So notice, we're dealing with cash. That'll be $22, and notice I'm going to round to the nearest penny. That's the 5 right here that I'm highlighting on my screen. If I look to the right of that 5, it's not 5 or bigger, it's a 4, so it's going to stay at 5 pennies. In other words, it's going to stay 25 cents. So $22.25 is the amount of interest. So let me come back over there to my other screen. So $22.25. So the interest in 6 months then, so it's only half a year. This person earned $22.25 in 6 months, doing nothing, just allowing the money to grow. Okay, so again, the person put in $635.85 at 7% for 6 months, a half a year. Now remember, the 7%, it would grow exactly 7% if it was for exactly 1 year. But it didn't grow 7% in 1 year because the money was only in for half a year, okay? So it became $22.25. That's the amount of interest earned. So what I want you to really pay attention to here is the time, the PRT, principal times rate times time. The time was expressed as a year, 6/12 of a year, okay? 6/12 of a year. Time is always expressed as years. Let's try one more here. Well, two more. One where you just pay attention to me doing it, and the last one you're going to do on your own, learning from your classmates. So let's try number 3. I'll give you about 30 seconds to write this one down. So Hernandez, like I said, get some paper out. We're on example 3. You can catch up on examples 1 and 2 later because I'm going to post this video to Google Classroom. So go to write, find the interest. I'll give you about 30 seconds to write this one down. $175 invested at 8% for 90 days. Look, we're going in days now, not months, for 90 days. Here we go. Let me write down my formula. Interest equals PRT. So far, so good. Interest equals PRT. Now, the principal is going to be $175. Okay, the rate is going to be 8% as a pure decimal. Percent means 8 out of 100. If you take 8 divided by 100, it gives you 0.08. So the quick way is just move that decimal over to the left twice, 0.08. Okay, and then 90 days. How am I going to express 90 days as a year in years? Well, there's 365 days in a year. In other words, I can take a whole year and chop it in 365 parts, and each one would be a day. So 90 days would be 90 365ths of a year. Look at that, 90 365ths of a year, right? So the key here is expressing time as years. How many years is 90 days? Well, it's not even 1 year. So how many years would it be then? Well, it's 90 365ths of a year. In other words, I chopped up a year into 365 days, and I took 90 of them. So it's a fraction of a year. It's a part of a year. It's not a full year, but I still have to express it as a year. So it's 90 365ths. Okay, that's the part you're going to have to try to train yourself with. Time has to be expressed as years. Okay, here we go now. Since I'm dealing with a fraction, I'm going to make everything into a fraction just like I did in example 2. Interest then is equal to 175, okay, over 1. I'm going to make everything a fraction, times 0.08 over 1, times 90 over 365. Notice that, okay? So numerator times numerator times numerator. See a crazy spider on my balcony here. Let me move this over to the left so I have some room. So watch this. Here we go. The numerator is going to be the 175 times 0.08 times 90. Let me go to my calculator and do that. 175 times 0.08 times 90. I get 1260, notice that. Let me put that over there, 1260, 1,260. Notice that, there's my numerator, and now the denominator is easy. It's just gonna be what? 1 times 365, right? 1 denominator times denominator times denominator is gonna be 365. This is all junior high school stuff, or even lower. And now what I'm gonna do is I'll just take this on my calculator, 1260 divided by 365. So 1260 divided by 365, watch this. 1260 divided by 365. Where are you at? Where are you at? Here we go. 1260. Let me minimize that. Hold that thought. Well, here, I'll answer the question now. Go ahead, Fuentes. Hit it.
I had a question about when you know how you said that the time has to be a year?
Correct.
When it's in days, couldn't we just do like the 90 divided by the 365 first before we instead of doing all that? Wouldn't we still get like the same answer?
Yeah, so in other words, make it into a decimal kind of thing, 90 divided by 365. You can do that, right?
Okay.
You absolutely can.
I was just wondering, because I was like, I don't know, sometimes when I think like that, I tend to like skip a step and then get the answer wrong. So I was like wondering if that would happen with.
No, good question. So notice, so let's say I were to do what you just said, it would be 90. Can you see my calculator, by the way?
Yeah.
Look at 90 divided by 365. Like, I'd have to put this nasty decimal in there, you see? But that would still work, though, is my point. I'd put 0.24657, all that, as my time. In other words, this is how many years the money's in there. It's 0.2465753,425 of a year. That's how much of a year 90 days is. So here it's expressed as a decimal, here it's expressed as a fraction. Either way, it's still fine to answer your question. So good, I like that. I like how you're thinking. So What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna type in our last fraction. I'm gonna type in the 1260 divided by 365, okay? And let's see how much money and interest that the investment grew. 1260 divided by 365, 1260 divided by 365, $3, look at that, and 45 cents. Okay, because I'm going to the pennies. $3.45. I look at the pennies place, I look to the right of it, it wasn't 5 or bigger, so it stayed at 5. If this decimal place where the 2 is at was 5 or bigger, the pennies would turn into a 6. But it was not, so it's going to stay at 5, so it's $3.45. Not that much money it grew. It didn't grow that much. The reason is, hold up here. So the interest is going to be, $3.45. Why is it so little money? Anybody tell me?
Because it was only there for 90 days.
Right, it's only here 90 days. That's about 3 months. And you only put in $175. It's not gonna, if you left it in one whole year, then it would have grown the full 8% of 175, but it's only here 90 days. It's only grew at $3.45. Okay, good. Now, all I'm asking you